All right. Hey, welcome to Frank Factualities, the podcast. I am your host, Yolanda. Thank you all for tuning in to this live show, whether you are on YouTube or on Facebook. I truly appreciate it. It is our 100th episode, and I am so excited. Delayed on the, but y'all get it. Um, I am excited because I have a whole lot of guests with me today. And so I know you all see them. Let's go ahead and do our introductions. We're going to start with Kennard. Kennard, welcome to the show. You are a friend to the show and just a hell of a conversationalist. So I'm glad to have you here. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the topic.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me again. To the guys, I know Keish, but Damian Ross, I'm glad to work with you guys, and looking forward to the opportunity. I think it's a great topic. So I love a good friendly banner. You know, I think it's
Oh,
good for everybody. I was supposed to be introducing myself. I'm sorry.
that's
I'm Kennard. I'm 35. I'm married. I've been married for about 3.5 years, going on 4. I work here in Orangeburg at the post office as a rural carrier, and I'm usually always at work. Very rarely I'm off. And yeah, that's just about it. Anything else you want to know, feel free to ask, and an open book.
Well, thank you, Kanara, for sharing. Next, we're going to introduce another friend to the show, and actually somebody who I always get asked, when are you having him back on the shows? Ross G. He is also a former a podcaster as well, and just an overall funny guy. I think so, smart guy. So, Ross, thank you so much for coming back and being on the show.
I'm glad you was gonna have me back. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I know I made a couple people mad, but I'm happy to be here. 35, uh, not married, so y'all take that how you want. Uh, and yeah, I mean I work in sales. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Ross. Next is friend to the show, but also my sister from another Mister, just my homegirl in general, but she's also a marriage and family therapist, Nakisha Randolph. Thank you for coming, sweetheart.
You bet. I am so happy to be here and congratulations on your 100th episode. As Yolanda said, I'm Nakisha Randolph. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I work full time for the VA and a specialty clinic for veterans with PTSD. And then I have private practice. Really excited to be here. I feel a little outnumbered, but I think it'll be okay. Ready for good dialogue.
Thank you, Randy. Now, I saved him for last because he has like a lot, and I appreciate that. I mean, he's the guy that I call. I probably should call for a lot more stuff. He's also a fellow podcaster. He is a licensed therapist. He's a business owner. He's a photographer. He is everything. Damien, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Yolanda. I appreciate it. I like that intro. When you go down the list, it's like, man, like I'm doing too much sometimes. But again, congrats on the 100th episode. Again, my name is Damian Harmon. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I've been in the mental health field over 15 years, almost 20 years now. I specialize more so in mood disorders, anxiety, depression. My niche is kind of like grief and loss. Uh, and of course, like she said, I do podcasting. I've been doing it for over 5 years now. So anytime that there's a hot topic or, we're talking about relationships, I definitely want to dive in on things like this. I kind of have like a left field point of view sometimes. So I'm looking forward to the combo.
Thank you. So we had one other guest, and she's having some technical difficulties getting in, but when she gets in, we'll introduce her. Her name is Royal. She also is a friend to the show, and I had her on a few weeks back. So Randolph, we won't be so outnumbered. It's supposed to be 3 and 3. So she joins us, we'll be okay. So I want to talk about relationships, and I'll tell you all why. Even though I try my best sometimes to steer away from the topic, I always get asked questions that are all still related to relationships. And so I just feel like, why is it that with all of the podcasts, with all of the books and just interviews and headlines and knowledge out there about how to make relationships work, how to get into relationships, why can't we get it right? And why are we still having such a hard time with romantic relationships, that is? And so I just wanted to talk about it and have just people from a different levels of expertise, married, unmarried, licensed therapists, and just have the conversation about why is that? So I'm going to start with Kennard. I'll let you go ahead and chime in the way I introduce you all. You can go ahead and tell me what your thoughts is on that.
Well, the very first thing I noticed when I look at the dialogue about this in particular on social media is I always notice that instead of maybe taking a set of guidelines and/or I guess if you would say rules, and taking it in and just taking it for face value, I think a lot of people look at it and the first thing they want to do is tear the list apart. What she does this, oh, she cooks and cleans for her man. She's stupid. Oh, he's paying all the bills. He's dumb. Things of that nature. I think we want to tear each other down so much so that we can't even get past our own blinders in a sense. Uh, and it's brutal war. I told you a few weeks back. It's just straight up men on one side, women on the other. Let's just find what we can to attack each other and say what the other is not doing, versus what this person would do or that person would do. I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed is that we just sometimes we don't take the guidelines of it all at face value. We have to make sure that I have to go through and do my due diligence and just straight up rip apart any type of relationship advice because this person doesn't know anything about relationships, or that person doesn't know anything. This person's been with 3 or 4 people. This person's been divorced a couple of times. I think everybody's experiences are unique unto themselves. Um, but yeah, I still think there are guidelines and rules that have to be followed and maintained to have a good relationship. And maybe not everybody agrees.
So, Ross, based on what Kennard said, do you think that we're not taking the advice? No one's agreeing with each other? Do you think there is a book or some sort of blueprint on the right or wrong? Or are we getting good advice and just not taking it? Or what?
So I think really the biggest thing is I think nowadays men are being a lot more vocal about what they like and don't like. And I think from a lot of years we've been hearing it, from the woman's side. And I think men are starting to be a little bit more vocal about that, about what they want to deal with and what they won't deal with. And it's some pushback with that, I'm saying? Because this is something that, that doesn't normally happen. I think everybody just needs to find somebody that works for them. Find somebody that's with your program, because it's somebody out there that's with it. You're not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. But I don't think that a lot of people realize that yet.
All right, I was going to go in order, but I want to go back to a man. So, Damien, what do you think about that? Do you think that you all are being more vocal now, just as men in general, and just speaking up on maybe what you like or what you guys don't like, and just like, hey, we got standards and we're not standing for it?
Mhm. I think it's a variety of things, but that's definitely a part of it. And I think it's more so um, we're becoming more emotionally intelligent. We're starting to tap into those aspects of us as far as our emotions because growing up, we did not have those avenues and those channels to actually identify what the emotions were. The only thing we kind of knew was to be happy or to be upset. So we couldn't be sad, we couldn't be hurt, we couldn't be fearful of situations, and we didn't know how to express those things. We were muzzled emotionally, so that impacted how we interacted. That's how we communicated in relationships. And so as boys, as we turn into men and you get into these relationships, and your girl or your significant other is asking you to communicate, how you feel and all those things, and it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm aggravated, or I'm upset, or whatever the case may be. So now I think it's more we're starting to evolve, and in relationships, as we all evolve, we have to be able to communicate what that evolution looks like, because we're all going to change. We're not who we were 5 years ago. We're not who we were 10 years ago, and we're not going to be the same 5 years from now. So even when you're in these committed relationships, marriage, what have you, you have to be able to communicate and express those things, and have that transparency and the vulnerability in your relationship to be able to do that. And I think we struggle with that because, like my man said, it's tit for tat. It's who's going to get one up on the other, or no one's going to take advantage of me. And one of those things in vulnerability, that's a strength. As you learn, as you become more emotionally intelligent, you start to understand, if I tell you who I am and I give you my blueprint, it's totally up to my partner or who else I'm in a relationship with to use that information as valued rather than using it against me. So I think as we're continuing to grow from an emotional and spiritual standpoint, then we're becoming more vocal, and we're becoming more expressive, because now we can identify, hey, like that hurt me, and being able to communicate that.
Thank you for that, Damon. Now, Nikisha, do you feel as women and how we respond to maybe how men are being more vocal about it, or maybe our resistance to hearing them and understanding where they're coming from, is that an issue, or do we need to now listen more? And I don't want to say follow what they're saying, but listen to them enough to say, you know what, maybe there's some things that we can do differently. Maybe we need to move differently in these situations so that ultimately we can have a healthier relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, no relationship is going to work if the person is not actively listening to what their partner is saying. I think for women and, being married, having been married almost 11 years, like I have to, sometimes like get out of my therapist brain and just be a wife to my husband and like actively listen to him and what his needs are, so that the relationship is not a give and take, it's a give. So if I'm given, my time and by listening, attentively to what his needs are, in return, it's like he's giving something to me. Like I'm learning more about him, and I'm learning more about, his, proclivities and things that, he might be struggling with or achieving, or goals or dreams that he has, just like he would do the same for me. So, I mean, I think that, active listening is a basic premise of any relationship. And the other thing I would also say too is like we have to like define what right is, like because right for me is going to look differently from what right for Kennard might, in his marriage, or Royal and in her relationship if she is in one. So how do we define what is right? Society is changing a lot, and now we can add things to our relationships like a la carte, right? So if we want to be what was the thing that Jada Pinkett and Will Smith had, like these not in, like entanglements, I think, or something. We can add stuff onto our relationships, so it's not like the traditional what we may have been raised if we were, or saw on television, like the Huxtables. It's not necessarily like that. People are becoming more empowered for whatever right looks like for them to create a relationship based off of that. So I think, yes, active listening to what our partners are saying is important, but then also defining like what is right, and who what standard are we living by as it relates to our relationship.
So yeah, I don't know if for the single people, if they understand or know even what right is. I think, in my opinion, social media just saturates relationships so much that we think that the masses is right. So if we're seeing so much of this, that means that this is what the relationship is supposed to look like, and this is how it should be. And maybe we don't know ourselves enough to know what I really need as a person. And it took me having to go to therapy to know like what is going to be fulfilling for in a relationship for me, and what I truly needed, not the superficial, he has to make this amount of money and he has to be this tall and all of those things, when really the need was deeper than anything superficial, and what I needed to just make sure that, I was whole. And not that I needed the marriage for that, but what I needed from that partner to just make the relationship go well. So, uh, Royal, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here. You missed the intro, and I'm glad you logged in. So we're going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. And I guess what I want to know from you is, and I don't want to tell, but I guess I'll say, because you have a unique perspective, because Ross mentioned that he was single, and I think Damien said the same, but they're not married. So let me not say they're single, because I don't know what kind of things they got going on. I don't want to speak their situations in. But I know that you're single, and you're also in a different age group than us, which I love, which is why I like picking your brain about stuff, because you just have a different perspective. So Royal, guys, is also a friend to the show. She is just a socialite and an influencer all around. So Royal, you can tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what you think from your perspective as far as relationships are concerned and how you see things being played out.
Well, first, hello everybody. I'm Royal. I'm a 24-year-old, almost grad school graduate. I graduate on Friday. So I'm excited about that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, but I'm a young girl. I'm a lit girl, fun girl, also professional. I keep it real, but I keep it classy too. So I'm excited about this conversation, and yeah, let's get into it. But what was the question again?
You're fine. So the question was, we were talking about how like is so much advice online about relationships and what a man or a woman should be doing to maybe attract a partner, to have a good relationship. And some of the guys were mentioning that now men are being more vocal about how they feel, and maybe that's starting to stir up things. But what do you see it from your perspective? I guess someone maybe seeking a relationship, how, like, do you take advice? Do you listen to podcasts, or do you just go off of your own views and what you want and listen to, or you take advice, or is it a right or wrong, or however you feel about what's going on in the moment?
Okay. First, in my opinion, there is no right or wrong to how anybody feels. I feel like in a relationship or a situationship or whatever kind of ship it is, I feel like each partner should have the freedom and like a no judgment zone to just express how they feel. And I feel like as a couple or situationship or whatever, we should be able to agree to disagree. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I can't say that you're wrong for feeling a type of way about something or for having your own opinion. It's nothing wrong about it. It's just how you feel. And if I can't accept how you feel about something or your opinion, then maybe it's not really for us. But I feel like whoever you deal with, it's no right or wrong to how you feel or your opinion. It's just, can I accept that or not? That's how I feel about that. And when it comes to advice, I like advice, but I won't say I'm one to really take it. I like hearing it. I like hearing other perspectives, and I like hearing what the next person would do when it comes to a situation. But I just, it's really, really about what I want to do, honestly. I mean, if the advice is something that I want to do, then I'll take it, but I won't judge a person off of what someone else says. I just can't. I gotta see for myself. I'm the type of person where like you could probably tell me what's right, and even though it's right, I probably still wouldn't listen because I gotta see for myself. That's just how I am.
What are you thinking about the dating world now? Because obviously you're on the scene all the time. So what do you see? What's a trend that's going on, or what do you see out there when you're mixing?
Um, in my experiences, I'll say probably within the last, I'll say maybe a year or two, I have realized that not all guys, but the guys I've dealt with, I feel like guys really kind of run from their feelings. Like I could be dealing with a guy and I can know for a fact he really feeling me, but he really kind of won't really admit it. And then like when I'm bringing it to the table, it's kind of like, oh, we just kicking it, I really like vibing with you. I like kicking it with you, but it ain't really much when it's like you saying one thing, but the way you act around me or like the way you move when it comes to me is just showing me a lot more. But I feel like guys can't acknowledge when they like a girl. I feel like when they like a girl or a woman, it's like they kind of run from it and they fight it until they can't fight it anymore. And until to the point where it's just like, okay, I really like her, so I got to move on it. And it's like, it happens. I feel like guys really take pride in really not stepping into their feelings or acknowledging how they feel about a woman and just kind of just keeping her in a spot that they want them to be in until they decide that they want to move to the next level. And that's just not right. Like if we vibing and it's getting a little more serious, then just let it happen. But I feel like guys, they run from it and they run from it until they can't avoid it anymore. And I don't like that.
So now, Ross, that goes a little opposite from what you said, and that you mentioned that guys have been more vocal about their feelings. So what do you think about what Royal said?
I think, well, I do think we're being, more vocal about, what we like and dislike. I think that when it comes to as far as expressing your feelings in a relationship, a lot of guys feel like, when we do that, y'all kind of try to hang it over us. So like, it's like, I got him, or, you know what I'm saying? I got him wrapped around my finger, it's, and just being that vulnerable with a woman, when you really getting close with her, that's difficult for guys to do because, women will turn it back on you, man. You could bring her like the wrong flavored juice or something from the store and y'all in the argument and she talking about some childhood trauma now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that happens often. So I think that guys, especially in her age range, are very weary of that. And and maybe guys are scared of what it requires to actually be in a relationship. I said the last time I was on the show that I think that, not a lot of people under the age of, 27, 28 are really ready for something that serious, at least today in today's age. Everybody's trying to see what they can get from the opposite sex. And it's not about, building together and having a partnership. And so I think it's hard for guys just to be vulnerable because, it ends up getting used against them. And at the end of the day, you're kind of weary of people's motives, which everybody is. But that's my take on it.
So
Okay, two questions.
Okay, go ahead, Royal. Sorry.
First question is, okay, I heard you say twice, I think guys are expressing our feelings a lot more and we being a little more transparent about feelings. My first question to you is, how do you know that you're being more expressive or that you're really expressing your feelings? Or like, what can you give me an example? Like, what does expressing your feelings or like opening up more or being more vulnerable to a woman, what does that look like for you or for men?
I think for men, it's sometimes you run into women that'll try you, that'll see how much disrespect you'll take. It may be on the sly, but you know what I'm saying, he may have to check you and say, hey, I don't like that. Like, don't do that. It was a time where guys, especially, you know what I'm saying, when they're younger, they'll just take it. Just because of the prospect of maybe having sex with you or being seen, with a woman that's beautiful. And at least for me, when I'm, what I'm saying, when I was that age, you would let certain stuff slide just because she was fine, but I think when you get into the reasons of why men are starting to do that, it could be because of past experiences or, I'm saying, bad relationships, and guys don't want to delve into that part of it with women because it comes up later in an argument or something like that. You see what I'm saying? So I can tell you what I don't like, but here's why I don't like it. I dated somebody in the past that did something similar, and this is how it went. And I just, I'm saying, I just don't like it. And then, 2 months later, we get into an argument, and that's why she left you. So I think it's the balance. When you're talking to a guy, and he's telling you something, you want him to be vulnerable. You got to be careful not to use that against him down the line because it does happen often.
So what I'm hearing is fear.
Okay.
what I'm hearing is just fear. It sounds like it's fear of being honest and transparent, because again, it's being hung over your head. But I think that women have that same fear. We also feel like if we let our guard down, if we're vulnerable, then it's going to be used against us, because now you got us. Same thing. And so, and also the age thing, I would beg to differ. I think I'm a woman of a particular age, but I think we all know people that are of a particular age that are still about the foolishness, that still play games, that still string women along, that still do all of these things. So I want to say it's the individual, which is why I want a therapist on, because I feel like I always preach that everybody needs to get healed, because we all got past traumas that we bring into situations. And now we don't really know what we want. We don't really know what's holding us back from being transparent, whether or not that's something that happened to us. We feel like we're going to get hurt if we do it, because that's what I'm hearing. And so, you know, before I get into my therapist, Kanar, what do you think on what was just being said?
Hmm. Well, first things first. I'm hardly one to, I guess, I don't want to put this out because I don't want to step on my toes. So I'm not a toe step. All right. So I met my wife, um, and we were together after a week. We were in a relationship after a week. So as far as me talking about vulnerability and things of that nature, I feel like that's just about as vulnerable as you can get. I mean, uh, when you with somebody and it's your person, you know, plain and simple, you know. Um, but you do have to take time to work on yourself too. And I notice you talk a lot about therapy, and I've not really done individual therapy for particular issues and things of that nature from relationship issues in the past. But the one thing I did do was try to stay by myself. You know what I'm saying? I tried to stay by myself, and so that I wouldn't project any issues and any problems I had from a previous relationship onto anybody else. I didn't feel like that would be fair to anybody. I didn't feel like that would be the right thing to do for myself. Um, so I just took that time so that whenever I finally did meet my wife, it was just like, okay, it's kind of like I just knew, like I just knew because I'd been single for a couple of years, and then and that whole time I was just focusing on trying to build myself up, trying to build a career, trying to be a good dad at that particular point as well, because I had my son and he was living with me. So that was the biggest thing, just working on myself when I got to that point and we started spending time together and things of that nature. Um, just the vibe, a feel. And it kind of helps in the sense with the trust factor or whatever the case may be. Because after you've gone through a lot of things in a bad relationship, it can hold over you like a bad stench. Um, So yeah, I think that was big for me, just taking that time for myself, moving forward, getting to know her, her getting to know me, and being super honest and open immediately up front. Like one of the first things I told my wife when I met her was, I have a son. Just go ahead and get that out of the way. Like within the first 5 minutes, like open transparency. I have a son. This is the way my life is set up. This is the way it's constructed. So this is how I'm gonna have to move if we're going to be involved and talk and get to know each other and things of that nature. Because I don't feel like it's right to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I think you should give everybody should give the opposite sex an opportunity to decide whether or not they want to ride the ride that you're offering them. Because once you get in, you can't then claim that you didn't know I was a wild driver or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Everything's been put out in front of you, laid out bare for you to see. So yeah, I think that was big. But oh man, trust. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's depends on what you've been through, how often you've been in those situations. Um, and then once you I guess have those experiences, that determines how quickly you trust a woman or how quickly I'm sorry, a woman trusts a man. So yeah, I
Right.
can't, I don't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that we all have gotten our heart broken at some point, and I think we always think we get it right, and then we're not getting it right. And what I've seen or what I feel when I hear people talk about why the relationship didn't go well, it's usually because they're looking for whatever's missing or whatever was missing in the last relationship. So if my man cheated on me, then the next relationship I get in, I'm only thinking about trust. I got to trust him. I got to trust him. But then now we're not equally yoked on other levels because all you've been focusing on was what you were missing out the last one. But again, why I feel like you have to get healed from all of your past. And sometimes everybody don't maybe not need the therapy. Maybe you just need space. Maybe you need time. So Randy, can you talk to maybe that perspective as to how people should be as far as their state of mind when they're getting into these relationships?
Yeah. So I think, it's really important that, we talked about like vulnerability, trust, being open. Once you are, talking to someone, you're meeting them, y'all are vibing. I think it is important just to say, like, these are some of the issues that I've had or challenges that I've had in the past, or this is what happened, when this guy broke my heart, or, this girl broke my heart, like getting those things out at first. And that's not to say that the person who you are with may not hurt you down the line. Like getting that disclaimer out, like right at the front, doesn't mean that you're not going to be hurt or disappointed, or your past trauma or whatever won't be triggered by that person. But I think having an open conversation, and you don't have to necessarily get into, because sometimes people who have been hurt a lot of times and are not able to like really build a trusting relationship, they're not going to want to, tell you every single thing about them, because, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier, because you don't want that vulnerability, like maybe used against you later if y'all get in an argument or whatever. But, if you feel comfortable sharing, talking about like, this is what happened, or these are my hard no's, like this is something that I'm not gonna, deal with in a relationship, and giving the other person an opportunity to, respond accordingly. Like, if I want to be in a monogamous relationship, because, there's been like infidelity, multiple times in other relationships. Well, if I'm telling you this up front, then the expectation is that we're going to work towards X, Y, and Z. Sometimes it works that way and sometimes it doesn't, but at least I'm being open and honest about my feelings and the things that I've experienced. And I'm not like lying about it, or I'm having to act like, nothing has hurt me. We are the sum of all of our parts, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and we bring all of those things into a relationship. But you got to have those conversations up front, and you got to continue to have those conversations, not just one conversation, not two, but you continue to have those conversations throughout. You got to, I call it kind of like checking the thermometer, like being able to like say, okay, it's been 6 months and we've been talking, or we've moved to this stage of a relationship. Let's do check-ins, like, let's talk about some of the things that we first talked about, or and seeing like where we are and meeting, each other's expectations. And that's completely fine. It's not this like one shot thing. There's not even as a licensed marriage and family therapist, I'm not telling anyone that comes into my office that, oh, this is the rule book that you have to play by, or these are the policies and procedures that you need for your relationship. A lot of things are going to be by trial and error. And even if you are disclosing, like, these are things that, I've been through before and I don't want to go through again with that person. Again, like I said, you might face hurt or disappointment, but, you have to, be vulnerable. You have to open yourself up to the possibility that maybe this person won't do me like the other person did. And if you had that like looming insecurity over your head about, okay, something else is going to happen, I'm just waiting for the next shoe to fall, or to drop, like maybe you need to see a therapist. Maybe you need to talk about what that is about for you, like that you can't move into a relationship because maybe it's not about just trust. Maybe you're self-sabotaging. and you need to, figure out, with a therapist, somebody who can, help you with the treatment plan, or talking to you about, like some of your behaviors, what that looks like for you. Because you could have the right person in front of you, but, because of your stuff that you're not addressing, you could be like self-sabotaging a good thing. So I'm not sure if that answered the question that you were asking, but at the bottom, at the my net is always like, hey, we are all coming into the relationship with like a set of parts of us, and some of those parts are good, some of those parts are bad, and for the things that we can't correct on our own or self-correct on our own, go to see a therapist. That's why we're here. That's why we're in business, right, Damon?
I was gonna say, Dame, your therapist thoughts.
Oh man, I heard a lot. I was attentively listening. I was actively listening to what everyone was saying. But when we're talking about, just in general, we're talking about relationships, and we're talking about two individuals with a variety and a long list, most times, of experiences, whether it's positive or negative. Like my fellow therapist said, we're a sum of our experiences. So who you are today is a direct reflection of all of your past situations, relationships, interactions, traumas, all those different things. And so in relationships, especially when we're talking about romantic and intimate, if that level of trust isn't there, then I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to communicate. I'm not going to set healthy boundaries. They're not going to be healthy at all. They're going to be unhealthy, right? Like if I know that I've been hurt before and you haven't given me the space to say that it's a safe space, or even provide examples of it being a safe space, then I'm never going to actually come to you. And I can only speak from a guy's perspective, or from my perspective. Once you have broken my trust and that vulnerability, it's never going to happen for you again. So we might as well go ahead and call the relationship, in a sense, because that's something that you really can't come from, because I've given you pretty much, again, like my blueprint of what can hurt me, what can help me, what can make us successful, all these different things, and you chose to do it. It was a choice. It wasn't nothing that you were forced to do. You chose to hurt me in that particular capacity. So it doesn't necessarily mean because there's infidelity that the relationship is over. If I tell you that something really hurt me to the core when it was done to me previously, and you skipped over that and still did it anyway, that's a direct reflection of who you are in my eyes. And even as a therapist, and all the coping strategies, and all the sessions and everything in the world, I'm still a human at the end of the day. And so I still have certain boundaries that I've established for myself in my relationships. If you're a significant other, whatever type of relationship, and I didn't, have my fair share of different types, whether that's, alternative or monogamous, whatever the case may be. The core of all of those relationships is trust and communication. If my girlfriend had a girlfriend, like it was imperative that all three of us communicated about jealousy, feelings, anger, frustration, whatever the case may be. And I think even in those particular aspects, it allowed me to be in a healthy one-on-one relationship if I choose to do that, because I know the importance of communication and being able to be transparent and vulnerable in all of those different, situations. But also it allowed me to uncover a lot of my unresolved things, that I carried forward from previous situations and relationships. So in some of this, we have to do a self-evaluation, a self-assessment. And oftentimes, like you said, Yolanda, we normally point at the other person, like what they did to negatively impact the relationship. But anything that someone else does to you, it's kind of like a reflection. We don't want to say it, but it's a reflection of us. You know what I'm saying? So we have to do our own self-evaluation of the things that we're struggling with, the things that are, unhealthy in our relationships, and being able to work on those particular things. Because if two people are working on themselves individually and they come together, guess what? You're going to have a healthier relationship. So I think all everything that's been communicated thus far, you guys are really hitting on the head, because we're all individuals. So we're going to have different perspectives. Some it's just it is what it is. And it comes over time. And me being 44, I'm definitely not the guy that I was at 25 or 30 or 33 in regards to relationships. Like, I didn't communicate about emotions and stuff like that. And because we're told that when we express, that's a form of weakness. And no guy on this platform right now, in our culture, we don't want to be perceived as weak. And so being able to change that narrative, that being able to express yourself is a form of weakness, or being hurt or being fearful of something is a form of weakness, that's pretty much why I'm in this field, is to kind of dispel that myth of being able to express yourself, and being able to do it effectively, and that being a form of strength. So I know I kind of went all over the place just now, but I just had a whole lot of different thoughts, with everybody, chiming in and things like that. But, I think it's important, and it's imperative that we do our own self-work. And you don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So oftentimes we feel like we're okay, and everything is all good until there's a trigger, and you didn't realize it was a trigger until it actually triggered you. So sometimes, going to therapy and being able to allow the layers to be pulled back to you, so you can really see for yourself, like, who you are to the core. Until you really do those things and really do that self-work, we're all going to struggle in relationships.
This is true. And you weren't all over the place. I was following you intently. And everyone, you guys have a wealth of knowledge. And I like just being a part of listening. Now, I've been painting the narrative, answering the questions, but I want to have some fun. So I want each of you, if you have a question or something you want to ask of the other panelists, because I know Royal was about to get in at Ross, and he ready for the smoke. I can tell you that right now. So if any of you have a question for some of the other guests, now would be the time to go ahead and chime in.
Well, let me go ahead and start. Ross, question. So with the whole conversation about a man acknowledging his feelings for a woman, and I guess y'all would call it being vulnerable. But the question I have is, what about acknowledging how you feel about a woman, or accepting how you feel about a woman? What about that makes you weak? I just don't really understand it, because I really feel like guys really think that if you tell a woman, I feel this about you, I look weak, or like, oh, I don't want her to know she got me around her feet. Like, what's wrong? Like, what makes it weak? Because, like, I mean, as a man, you would hope that you do have her right around your finger. Like, that's the whole point. So what about that makes y'all weak? Or like, what's the problem with me knowing that we really like that? Like, I want to know.
I think it depends on the woman. I think to some women it can be seen as weak. I think that to the right woman, it could be a sign of strength. You know what I'm saying? That he's willing to come out and confess this and say this to me. And if he's able to say that to you, then you should that's a compliment. That I'm trusting you enough to tell you that this is how I feel about you, and that you're not gonna play with me, and vice versa, because you don't want nobody playing with you either. So really it really comes down to, I had to do some self-reflection myself, because when I was your age, I would pick women that would say, oh, I got them, I'm saying, let me see what I can get out of them, let me see what what money I can get out of them, so let me see how far he's going to let me, use him or disrespect him, because he's confessed these feelings to me. I had to look at the women that I was choosing. And and the flags are there, when now, of course, hindsight is 2020, but the flags were always there that I was dealing with a woman that wasn't really that emotionally intelligent. Probably was playing games, probably wasn't really trying to settle down, just kind of trying to see what she can get, or or see if she can add to the roster or whatever. I think for the men it comes down to being able to acknowledge that I have made some bad choices, and that you got to look at what you're attracting, and what you're doing to attract those kind of women. I know when I tell a woman that, I do tend to hold off on, even if I've been feeling her since the first week. You know what I'm saying? I see my man's, he was in a relationship with her after a week. I can't do that. You see what I'm saying? I got to, it may take me a little minute, but a couple months, I might tell you, hey girl, you all right. I like you. You cool. If we really been kicking it like that. And you know what I'm saying, I trust you to tell you that. So I think for me, it's gonna take me a little longer than it may take somebody else. You gotta know the kind of person that you're dealing with. But I think that, like I said, if it's with the right woman, if you're confessing it to the right woman, then it doesn't make you weak. If it does make you weak, then you confess it to the wrong woman, and you need to change your mind and look elsewhere.
Let me, can I add to that? Both sides. I'm gonna give you the therapeutic side, but also the real side. Real side first. Any guy that hesitates with claiming you or wanting to move forward in a relationship don't really want to deal with you in that particular manner where you're trying to go. He want to stay in that particular space. If it's a sneaky link, he trying to stay in that space, even if y'all enjoying it and it's all good. If he not willing to say, hey, I want to make you my girl, I don't care at what age, like 17, 18, 25, 30, when a dude wants you to be his girl, he gonna do it. And on the clinical side, I'm gonna say he's gonna do that based on logic. Does it make sense? Women are led with emotion, generally speaking, not every woman, but they think about, how does it impact me? How do I feel? How does this thing make me feel? Guys generally think about, does it make sense? So if a guy has a plethora of options, going on, and he got, Monique, Nikki, Shanika, everybody going and it's popping, it doesn't make sense for him to stop, regardless of how he feels about you. Versus the flip side, if a girl has a plethora of options, the one that she emotionally connects with first, that's who's getting it. Getting a relationship, not the sex part. But that's who's gonna get it. So we gotta think it from that particular perspective. Like, we think different. We just do. And that's just that's a cultural thing, that's a DNA thing. Like, we do things because we're more so problem solvers. Whatever the problem is, we're gonna fix it. Women, generally speaking, they're more nurturers. So y'all are led with emotions, generally speaking. And it doesn't change when it comes to relationships. And I'm sure we all have seen a situation to where a guy drags this woman along for years and years. They're girlfriend and boyfriend, or in a long-term relationship, and then they end up breaking up because he wasn't ready to get married. Then 6 months pass, he finds somebody, and then he get married just like that. It has nothing to do with the emotion. It doesn't make sense for him to do it right now. And so we got to look at it from that standpoint when we're talking about relationships. We got to be able to find that middle path to where we're both thinking logically and emotionally at the same time. And sometimes that's more difficult than not. And that's why we continue to struggle oftentimes, because women are trying to get the guy to think more emotionally, and we're trying to think, trying to make the woman think more rationally. and sometimes that's more difficult than not.
My question is, as a man, if you're trying to figure out what makes sense, do you expect us as women to just be strung along until you figure it out?
Mm-mm.
Or how does that go?
That is your choice. If a guy does that, and again, that's a sign of maturity. That's the immaturity. That's a red flag in my book. So if I'm saying, hey, I like where we are right now, but there's a possibility, there's a risk that I could lose you. It is what it is. And the same way, go on my end. If we're just
This age, guys ain't doing that. Guys ain't that honest.
and I
They
like
not.
that more than I like you,
No, not in their 20s. Maybe in their 40s. Maybe by that time they're a little more honest. But guys are not so honest to the point where they'll be like, I don't really know if this is what I want right now. They not that honest. They just not that honest.
Yeah,
because
they probably
they're fearful of you of losing access to you. So they're going to lie.
Yeah, see, and that's what I don't
So
like.
that's a maturity thing. That has nothing to do with age. Age has no
Yeah, but I
maturity.
mean, how long do it? So my question: at what age do y'all mature?
There's not an age. I know 17-year-old mature people. I know people that's 50 years old that's still doing the same shit. So
We
it's
need
not
the
an
little
age.
hand so we can raise our hand when we want. But listen, I want to clear up a misconception, and I think my ladies can attest to this. And I tell guys this all the time. Yes, y'all operate on logic, but we do too. We not all emotional. We would respect the truth, and I think that's something that gets just over y'all head. Like, if y'all, how many women have you been straight up with and they still deal with you? Because we really will. If you tell us the truth, if we really want to deal with you, we're gonna deal with you regardless. So lying to us and being, immature and not telling how you really feel is only hurting in the end. I always say that the truth ends with a period and a lie ends with a question mark. If you don't want women to question you, then you should definitely tell the truth, because what can I say? I'm either going to deal with you or not. But more than likely, come on, we all know women who dealing with married men. We all know men who deal with married, because they all still know what time it is, but they choose to still do it. So I don't know why men think that women can't handle the truth, because it's the opposite. We really do understand it if it's laid out on the table in the beginning and we're not strung along. Then the truth comes out later. Then now we crazy because we respond to the lies that have been told all of this time.
So is it truly logic, or because you end up dealing with this person, whatever dysfunctional relationship it is, side piece, whatever he married, you only gonna deal with it or even make the decision to continue to do it because you like it. Because in some way, shape, form, or fashion, you're benefiting from it.
I feel like at that point, if we already kind of really deep into it and it's already a connection, it's already a bond, it's kind of different, because like, you lied. I was bamboozled. I was like really participating in something I didn't really know the whole truth about. But I feel like if from the beginning all the pieces to the puzzle was laid out, it was nothing for me to do but to put it together. But if you don't give me all the pieces to the puzzle and you get me halfway through the puzzle and all this stuff missing, I'm like, what's tea?
Kanar, you had something? I see you leaning in.
Man, I'm trying to remember what I was about to hit on. Right. Okay, so oh man, Doctor Damien, is that what you go by, or just
Yeah,
Damien?
you just call me Damien. That's
Just okay.
coming.
Oh, okay. I mean, so again, I spoke about my prior experience, and to touch on something Ross said. Yes, I talked to my wife for a week, and we ended up in a relationship. But you know why though? It's because of what Royal just alluded to, laying everything bare, putting it all out there, letting her know what she's getting. She's letting me know what I'm getting. If it's true genuineness involved, like again, like you said, Ms. Gore, it's the truth ends in a period. So there's nothing to really question. There's nothing to really kind of have to look around. Me personally, I always said if I wasn't ready for a relationship, then I wasn't getting in one. I wasn't gonna string anybody out, make them feel like, oh, it's a chance. We may be kicking it. Now there was between the time my son came into this world and the time I met my wife, I was with no one, and I had people approach. I had different females come, and one I just didn't. I wasn't with it because my son was such an essential part of my life. I'd already said, "No, I'm not gonna have any and all these other females around my child. I'm just not gonna have it. If you're not gonna be a staple in my life, then you can't meet my son." And that was just all there is to it. And to this day, the only female who's met my child is my wife. Obviously, other than his mom. Uh, but I do feel like that was the number one biggest determining factor to why we ended up clicking and bonding so fast. It's just because whenever I would tell her something, and if there was some sort of verification that needed to be done, I mean, obviously I would pass, and the same went as far as she was concerned, where I was concerned, because consistency is a big thing. If once you show me you're consistently there and engaged, then there's really nothing else for me to ask for, nothing else for me to question, nothing else for me to doubt. And I would hope it would be the same, or I hope that it was the same for my wife. um, but yeah, I mean, Royal, it sounds like, and I know you said guys in their 20s aren't openly honest. It just depends on who you're dealing with, and it depends on what stage of their 20s too, because that's big thing. You say you're 24, so you're in that turn up stage, right? So the guys you're gonna attract most likely in that exact same area. And no, they're not trying to give up all their 31 flavors. Nah, that's just it. No, they're not gonna be open and honest about their feelings as it pertains to you, even if they feel like you could be the best thing that ever happened to them, because they have not emotionally matured, and because they are not emotionally ready for what comes along with being in a committed relationship. Then of course they're going, oh yeah, we just kicking it, yeah, we just you just the homie, this, that, and the third. Once you start to elevate, I won't say 40s because you took it to the extreme. And I'm like, damn, how old am I? But no, I'm sorry, Keisha. I'm sorry, man. But seriously though, nah. Um, you it just really, once you get to a point of experience in life, you know what you want and you know how to convey your feelings as it pertains to what you want. And when you meet a genuine person, they'll take what you're saying at face value, and you can get the same thing in return. Hopefully. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's the only thing I can say to you about that, man. It's gonna take a while because we don't always get it right the first time. I'm sorry, fellas.
So I know Ross and I had spoke about this before, but so Royal was asking like what ages are they going to mature? And then I know on the last show Ross and I were speaking, we alluded to like when a woman gets a particular age and she's still single, people look at her like she not eligible anymore. It's like, okay, she used good. So now as a young woman who's 24 who's saying that at some point I want this, but these men in my age not mature. I know my father ain't settled down till he been almost 50. Okay. He was a Rolling Stone. He got it in. And he wanted all he could do until it was like, all right, I'm ready now. Who's still hanging with me? Let's go. You get what I'm saying? So then now I get it, but what is she to do? And it's like, all right, I'm just supposed to wait until she's now 35, 40, and then now y'all like, oh no, you ain't it, sweet, sweetie. Now I'm gonna still go to a 24-year-old at my 45-year-old age because I want something still hot and popping, and you kind of use goods because why are you single at 45? It's like you can't
Right,
win losing when you are a single woman.
right. No, I
There's a
mean that's
man out there ready for it though. There's a man out there
right,
ready for it though.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? You just if he's hesitant at 25, 26, 27, whatever, um, maybe that it just ain't the guy for you. You know what I'm saying? At that time. Maybe y'all will spin the block maybe when he's 28 or 29 or something like that, and he actually knows what he wants. But there's a guy at 25 that has a good idea of what he wants and is ready to settle down. if the guy that you're talking to isn't there and you need to find somebody that's there. Yeah, okay, that's, you know what I'm saying, that's on, you know, that's on the same type of time.
I would say my issue is I don't mind a guy not ready to settle down because I mean, now that I'm about to graduate grad school, maybe I'll consider it in a year, but at 24 and in my prime and still in college, I'm not ready to settle down. And that's just what it is. And so I don't mind a guy that's not ready to settle down, but it's just the simple fact that they don't know how to admit it. Like, you want me to act like I'm your girlfriend and you questioning me about where I'm at and who I'm with and who calling my phone and who I've been with and all this, and you don't even really want this. So it's just like, why fake it? And you so worried about me, but you know you still in the streets. You know, I don't mind it, but it's just that I just wish that guys at my age were men enough to just admit and just be honest and be realistic. If you know you don't want to settle down, you know you can't question me and clock me about what I'm doing and who I'm with and who I'm talking to, because you're not ready. And you know that. So that's my whole thing. But I'll probably say guys now that I deal with, I just feel like I'm stuck having to figure out what they really want, because they can't be open and honest about it. And it's just like me trying to put together pieces to the puzzle that I don't have all of them too. So it's just kind of like a guessing game sometimes. So it just kind of just gets confusing and I don't know how to move. So
Right.
honestly,
I'm sorry.
really,
I'm sorry.
I just do my own thing really and just roll with. I go with the flow, I guess.
Right. I was going to ask you, you know, like, how are you defining what you want, you know, versus like, you know, the guys who you might talk to? Like, what are you defining? Like, I know you said, you know, at this point, like maybe not like a committed, serious kind of, you know, relationship, like you may not be ready for, with all the like amazing things that are happening to you, and congratulations on your upcoming graduation. But like, how do you define like at this stage of your life, like what you really want, so that it's not confusing for you and it's not confusing for them too?
What I want is a nice guy that I can spend time with and someone that we can have a consistent relationship that we're constantly building and that we can be honest about. I don't mind other people in the picture until we both can come to an agreement that we don't want to have third parties. It's not an issue, but I feel like I want to build something with someone, and I know it's just not realistic to just only deal with one person. So I know it'll be other people, but I do want to build a relationship with someone that we can constantly just build and just grow. And then when we get to the point where it's like, okay, I think we should become more exclusive. Maybe we should just kind of really slow down on talking to other people, or we can be more open about it. We can discuss it. Like, you talking to other people, we can be honest about that. Not really, I deal with you and I have to figure out when we're gonna go to the next level. I want it to be like a mutual thing. We can just be honest with each other. But guys are just really, really not honest. And I'm a really honest person. Even if it hurts your feelings or not, I'm gonna tell the truth because it sets me free every time.
Okay, so it sounds like I got a lot out of it, of this, especially from you guys. I think that we go back and forth with what females think and what we want, what we need. I don't think we'll ever have, like you all said, a blueprint or a right or wrong to it. We're all gonna have our opinion. But if I don't tell y'all nothing else, I swear to God, I mean, if y'all got, I agree with Royal and people, we really have to learn to be more honest. I think just as people in general about everything, because she is right. I just think it's also something liberating about being truthful. Sometimes to my detriment, I tell the truth, because God forbid somebody got something over me. You know, I'm going to always have the upper hand. I'm going to always tell my truth so that no lies can be told about me. So I think that what are our OGs, our older guys feeding into their nephews, or their up and coming guys who are looking up to you all? What is it like? Who's pouring into them? Not all of them have fathers. Like, where's the representation to be like, hey guys, this is how you being a boy, my son is 14, and he gets some advice from his dad. He gets some advice from me on how maybe a woman wants. I know what I preach to him all the time is don't you ever lie. It may hurt her feelings. She may not, vibe with you, but like y'all were just saying, you're going to meet somebody that clicks with you and is going to appreciate that honesty. All because so often that's all I hear from women is that how much men have been lying and how they get caught up in it. Y'all say, don't believe what he says. Actions speak louder than words. Oh, trust me, y'all got the actions. And then you'll turn around and say, oh, but I didn't say we were in a relationship. And so I think it just becomes really confusing. And so you just got to say what you mean and mean what you say. And the actions got to say the same thing. If you don't want a relationship, then that's fine. But like Royal said, it should be clear. And if we going to see other people, then she got to be able to see other people too. And it got to be, just clear across the board. So on my show, I usually say, frankly, the fact of the matter, because that's how I'll wrap up a show. But and that just pretty much means what's the moral of the story. So I'm going to allow our therapist to give us what's the moral of the story about relationships and everything that we've talked to so far. I ain't going to hold y'all. It's been about an hour on the show. I had a good time. I hope you all did too. So Keish, what's frankly, the fact of the matter? And then Damien, after her, you tell me what the moral of the story is.
The fact of the matter is relationships are challenging. Relationships are hard work. Relationships mean a lot of different things, and they're also really rewarding. But the best relationship that you can have is with yourself. So befriend yourself, get to know yourself. You were with yourself when you were born, and when you transition from this earth, you would have been with yourself. So get to know yourself. Get to know the things that make you happy, so that when you do get into a relationship or meet someone that you are with, that you're able to communicate those things with them. That's always going to be at the end of the day, like, have a good relationship with yourself. And men are not the only ones who lie. We lie too. We play game too. We do all those things too. So, but at the end of the day, it is important for everyone. And I think, you all would agree with this too, like that we make sure that we have a good relationship and healthy boundaries within ourselves before we can ask that of anybody else.
Fact of the matter is that we all come from some level of dysfunction. We all have things that we have to work through. The biggest thing that to take away from this conversation in regards to relationships is that we're an ongoing, project pretty much. It's not etched in stone. Our life, our experiences are not just there. And being able to say, well, I just am who I am. I think that's a lot of lack of accountability right there. So being able to have the self-awareness to know that you got some dysfunctional stuff going on and being able to address those things, that's going to empower you to be able to be honest, in these relationships, be honest with yourself, because you have the level of awareness to say, no, I don't rock like that, or that's not me, or whatever the case may be. I love this, I don't like that. So being able, like my fellow therapist, said, being able to establish some healthy boundaries, even within yourself. If you don't rock with something, being able to say, I don't rock with that, I don't like that. This hurt me. Being able to say those things, it comes with you being self-aware and being able to speak and advocate for yourself, even in relationships. Even if you love that person to death, you should love yourself more. And when you start to love yourself more, there's certain things you're not going to tolerate just because you may be fearful of being alone. So being able to just stand on your own 10 toes and being able to, be solid in that, is very important. And that goes for both genders. It's not a male-female thing, but being able to stand within yourself and understand that you do have flaws is going to be, instrumental in developing healthy relationships.
Well, thank you all. Ross, did you want to add something?
I totally agree. Y'all covered it all. That was great.
Kennard.
No. That was perfectly put.
Royal.
I have nothing to add, but I'll just say I'm still trying to figure it out.
We gotta get some young boys on here so we can ask them the questions, and then I'm gonna invite my fellas back so they can school them. We're gonna have a class. I might have to be out of this one. Maybe I'll get my husband or something on this and be like, talk to the fellas because something going on, and I don't know what it is. But y'all got, I'm telling y'all, Damien, Ross, Kennard, and he talked to these guys. They got my girl out here. I don't like it. You know, better be talking to
Man,
I think I'm
I
just too
told
real
you
for him. I'm just say that. I'm just too real for him.
that could be it. You could be
Yes.
intimidating.
That I don't even think that's a thing. Like you just being honest.
Oh, that's the thing.
Again, that's just self-aware. You just being you. And I think if the guy is able to be themselves, then it'll work. But if you ain't being 100, like you don't want to deal with nobody that's not 100 anyway. If you 100,
Well, you all have a wealth of knowledge. I just want you all to know that my show is your show. Anytime you all want to come on, anytime there's a topic, I'm gonna harass y'all. I'm just gonna let y'all know now. Each of y'all gonna get something from me at some point that's like, hey, I need you. Me and Ross got some things we done discussed. I meant that, and you'll be hearing from me about some of those things. Y'all might get a call about those things too, but they're coming. So I just want to say thank you to you all, to my audience, to the people that are watching live. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. If you again want to hit me up, you guys have a topic or some sort of suggestions that you want someone on the panel to discuss or talk about it, you have questions for them, let me know. I'm sure they'll be glad to answer as well. So I want to just say good night. Thank you all for listening, and bye.